This is the JFJ Conspiracy, where the shop talk is rock.
I'm Jim.
And I'm Frank.
And I'm Jerry.
And you're listening to the premiere podcast of the JFJ Conspiracy. And what I want to do right now is give you a little rundown of what our show is all about, and then we're going to jump right into it. And what you're listening to is three friends who love to talk about music. And what we're going to do here tonight is we're each going to present a song from a band. You may have heard of them, you may not have. Could be an unknown band, unsigned band. And we'll pick a song, listen to it, and we'll talk about it. And after that, we're going to talk about a classic album that we all love, which is Van Halen 1. I'm looking forward to that. What about you guys?
Absolutely.
I can dig that.
Okay, so first up, we have Jim. You picked a band, and what's their name?
Future Kings of Denmark.
All right.
And when I heard that name, I absolutely loved it right off the bat.
Yeah, it's a different name. Are they a local band, or where are they from?
They are a local band. They're out of San Dimas, and the kind of main mover and shaker in the band is a guy named Stephen Wesley Giles. I've been kind of a friend of his, not a friend of his, but kind of acquaintance and sort of a fan of his for 20 plus years now, I think.
All right on. And
the interesting thing about this this song and this group is it's really two people, but it's Stephen who does everything. He plays the guitars, the bass, drums, writes all the music, and his co-writer is a woman who lives in Ireland.
Wow. And
what I find really just kind of exciting, if people have no idea about the way music's made anymore, when I was writing songs and in a band in high school, the idea of, collaborating with somebody halfway across the world wasn't even something you could even contemplate.
Oh, no, your idea would be gone by the time the stamp expired.
Exactly. So, interesting concept. She writes all the lyrics. He does all the music and plays all the instruments, records everything at his house. He has his own home studio there. But the production's fantastic on it. The songwriting on the whole album is absolutely great. And, catchy stuff, comparable to anything you would hear on the radio. And it's frustrating that we don't hear more bands like this on the radio.
All right on. Well, the song's called Stay With Me.
Yep.
And let's give it a listen, and then we'll talk about it. How's that?
Sounds good.
Sounds groovy.
When I see you smile, my body sings. It's so loud it makes it hard to think. It's like you bring the sun back to life when you're here next to me. When I hear your voice, it makes me melt. I'm a river flooding at your feet. You make everything that I feel so full of life and so complete. No, don't go taking that sunshine, baby. Stay with me. The airline's empty without you. Stay with me. I can't bear life if it's not with you. Stay with me. When I see you smile, my body sings.
I like that.
That's some catchy stuff. And so
Yes, it is.
This woman in Ireland writes the lyrics.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's a very rock but pop sound, and a great tone in the whole bit.
I'm not even sure that's my favorite song on the record. That's kind of their single, though, so it's kind of the one I chose. But you can find the video on YouTube and check it out. The whole album is just excellent. Just an excellent album. Very pop like that. When you hear it, kind of reminiscent of Weezer, Hot Hot Heat, Black Keys. You hear a little bit of those influences, I think, all throughout it.
Yeah, that's some good stuff. Now, are they on iTunes also?
They are, I believe so, on iTunes. I got this off of Bandcamp. And I try to, I think everybody gets a bigger cut if you buy out their stuff off Bandcamp. So I always try to go to Bandcamp if they have that available.
I've yet to use Bandcamp. I get my 37-cent check every once in a while from iTunes, you know. Well, that's some good stuff to listen to and look into, most definitely. All right, well, we'll move on. And the band I picked is from Rancho Cucamonga. And they were actually, I vaguely remember hearing them on KLOS on the Should I Stay or Should I Go segment. And they got a lot of fan support. And to be honest with you, I don't even know if this band, their name is Pump 5. I don't even know if they're still together because I was looking at their information on Reverb Nation the other day, and they don't have a guitarist listed on Reverb Nation right now. They had opened with Bullet Boys and Enough's Enough, and they had been in Australia. And to me, tell me if you don't hear a little bit of 90s pop rock, and it's some catchy stuff. And I'm going to give it a listen for you guys right now. It's called Lies. You get the gist of that.
I like it.
Yeah, I really like that also. I thought it was great. Very, little harder edge, a little more kind of pop punk going on there.
Well, I noticed some of the other songs, excuse me, on one of, they've got two albums. One's called Full Service and one's called Tour. The Full Service album, it seems to be have some punk edges to it, a little Green Day sound, but good stuff all the way around. Because I don't know if they're still together, which was kind of a bummer. I just found that out. I emailed them and didn't get a response, actually looking for the approval to play their music, because I would have, maybe even used some of their stuff as our opening credits. But we've got a band for that.
Yes, we do.
Great tune. And interesting, you said Bullet Boys, and who was the other? Enough's Enough.
Enough's Enough, yeah.
They're a little more harder edge than, seem a little different style than those two bands. But,
yeah. Well, when those kinds of bands open up, they have 3 and 4 different bands at a show because they're playing clubs. So I could see these guys coming on, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, an hour or two before the other bands show up. So it would be a good variety of a show. Yeah, okay, now, Jerry.
Yes, sir.
Tell us about your band.
Well, it's called Shire with a Y. They're from Cambridge, England. I'm not as knowledgeable as both of you two. All I know is when I heard their song Compliments, I loved it. I found them on Reverb Discover. They're on YouTube. They're on iTunes. And it's a female lead vocal, and I just love it. It sounds like we both like guitars, and it just hooked me right away. It hooked me right away, guys.
All right, well, let's give it a listen and see how this comes out. righty then.
I love it.
You know what? I would have thought Jim would have picked something like that.
You know, yeah. I mean, that's just rocking good stuff, gentlemen.
That's some pretty tasty guitar playing. And
Yes.
the reason I say that about Jim is that we had a female lead vocalist right off the bat. And
I seem to kind of lean that way. I don't know what that is, but
I notice a lot of when we're talking, a lot of the bands you throw at us and everything, there's a lot of the power pop bands with the female singers, and this leans right towards your alley, I think, too.
yeah, I like the voice, like right off the bat. I thought the production on the song was really great, and there's some nice little guitar embellishments in there that
Yes, there is.
add some interest.
Oh yes, most definitely.
I like it.
Now, did you look them up to see if they're touring or anything?
No, I did not. I just went to Discover, and I found them, and I listened to that single. It looks like they've got a couple albums out. I'll get more in depth next time we do this. But I just fell in love with that tune right off the bat, guys. I don't mind telling you that.
Well, not to step on your toes, but I did look them up. They are on iTunes, so they do have some music available, and that's where I got this cut from.
Beautiful.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yes, it is.
All right, guys. Now, being this is our premiere show and everything, I know we're kind of rushing things along and trying to, we're feeling our way out. We're about 15 minutes into it. And you know what? We don't have any sponsors. We don't have any commercials yet. But, I want to give out our email address because if you've listened to us for 15 minutes so far and you'd like to throw us some questions or comments or critique in any way, you can get a hold of any of us at the JFJ show. What is it? JFJ show at gmail.com. That's our address. And send us your feedback. We'd love to hear from you. And also, if you have a friend or a band or a family member, anybody that plays music, records music, sings, yodels, anything, hey, if you want
flamenco guitar, we don't care.
That's right. We'll talk about just about anything when it comes to music. And,
yes, we will.
And usually do.
Usually do.
Right.
And that's the whole reason for this podcast, because we take our day up on Messenger talking music, and it ends up, it's funny as you message somebody, Jerry or Jim, and then all of a sudden you got a whole conversation going, got to stop, got to eat some lunch, got to go get gas, go to the store, and we pick right back up again.
Yeah,
and
indeed.
That's why I think this podcast for us is fun. Hope other people enjoy it just as well. Now that's JFJ show at gmail.com. And let us have your feedback, please. All right, let's go ahead and move forward. Fellas, this is something, I think this is just as exciting as us bringing our own songs to talk about, because we're going kind of back in time a little bit.
Yes, we are, to the way, way back machine.
Way, way back machine. You better believe it. And this is something that, we all grow up on. We were weaned on this stuff. And we're going to talk about the first Van Halen album.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go, Jim. Give me your first impressions of when you first heard it. Did you hear it on the radio? What station? What was your first impression of Van Halen?
So I probably first heard it on the radio, KMET likely, thinking about 1978. And if you don't know, KMET was the rock radio station in LA.
The Mighty Met.
Trendsetters really, all the radio stations across the nation basically looked to KMET and what they were doing. And so I had heard the band but didn't know who they were. But had heard a little buzz about this group called Van Halen. And I think there was somebody at school had a Van Halen t-shirt on. And so I ran down to Music Plus and I pulled the album up, and no idea what I was buying, but I just bought it, took it home, threw it on the turntable, and side one, track one, Running with the Devil. And I, as soon as I heard it, I said, "Oh, I've heard this on the radio before."
Mm-hmm.
And then right after that, it launches into Eruption. And I just remember a huge smile on my face. I was smiling so hard, I think my face hurt. And when he went into that two-handed tapping thing.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah, mind-blowing. I was sitting there listening to that, and I thought, I have no idea what he's doing right here, but I'm pretty sure that's not humanly possible.
That's funny.
And just fell in love with the album. I mean, right off the bat, there's not a bad track on the album.
No.
And it's just good songs. It's just good songs, great melodies, great harmonies, and just solid songwriting. And the playing, of course, was just mind-bending.
Okay, and in that thread, what's your favorite track on that album?
Ooh, man. It's really hard to pick one. I'm gonna go with Atomic Punks.
Atomic Punk.
Very good.
Very good. That's you can't go wrong on any of the songs on that album.
No.
And the amazing thing about that album is your favorite song can change from day to day depending on your mood.
Yep.
Yes, no doubt about it.
Yeah. Jerry.
Yes, sir.
You and I remember we were working at the dairy. The album had already been out.
Yep.
And I remember because we used to blare music, just blast it when there weren't any cars around. When that
I was going to say Fast Times at Ridgemont High got nothing on us at work.
when they would play that first song and those car horns would come screaming in. It was just chilling.
Yes.
It was amazing stuff. But you have a favorite track on that album?
My favorite track is, like Jim said, after my mind was blown when I first heard Eruption and I got my stuff together, my favorite track on that album is I'm the One. I just love the lyrics, and when they break it down and do that ba-ba-da, shoo-ba-doo-wah, I love it. I love it, and I still do. And it's, 40 years later?
Yep.
I love it.
Well, that brings me to my next point. Does that album still hold up? Did it stand the test of time?
Absolutely. No doubt, no question. You can throw that on any time, day or night, and it rocks from beginning to end. And if I may throw in a little thing, I remember, as Jim said, buying the album, and I'd always flip it over and read the credits or the thanks or the whoever. And I remember seeing Gene Simmons on it. and at the time, in 78, guys, you know as well as I do, Kiss was out there, zenith. And just to see that from, at the time, an unknown band on the back of the album cover, it's like, thanks to Gene Simmons, I was like, that's kind of weird, but I love it. It holds up, definitely.
I just want to take a quick note to say it was 20 minutes and 40 seconds into our very first podcast that we got our first Kiss reference in. So go ahead.
There will be more to
that's
come.
pretty much it. You can't do one without the other. I mean, I guess he helped him with some money or whatever. But I just remember at the time, not knowing too much about the band, just reading that on the back of the album cover, and I just thought that was quite impressive at the time.
It's funny as I remember, I used to always buy Circus and Cream like we all did and read magazines over and over and over. And I remember reading an interview with Eddie when he would talk about when they were in the clubs, he would literally turn his back to the stage so the fans couldn't see him tapping because he didn't want to give up his secrets on what he was doing.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I think, if I remember right, it was Alex that told him that. He said, you got to turn your back to the audience because all those guys that are out there with their arms folded are all guitar players.
Oh, they're sucking it up.
And they're going to rip you off, what you're doing.
Well, do you think in our modern era, any other guitarist influenced as many guitarists as he did?
No.
Not in my opinion.
Absolutely not.
Nope.
Yeah.
And I guess you make an
argument
argument for maybe Steve Vai.
Mm-hmm. Well, Steve Vai is a very technical player.
Yeah.
And I think, for me anyways, to watch and listen to Eddie, even as amazing as he is, I still, as naive as I was, thought I can play like that eventually.
So did you and a million other guitar players.
I never thought that about Steve Vai because I think because he came from that Frank Zappa school,
Yeah.
he was too much, too technical for me.
Yeah. Steve Vai's in a world of his own.
And that's, I don't.
That whole area, like 85, maybe even a little bit before that. But you hear Eddie Van Halen in Steve Vai's playing. I mean, he like everybody, they all picked up on what he was doing.
Oh yeah.
He completely changed the landscape for guitar playing.
Absolutely.
Yep.
No doubt about it.
Agree.
And I know we've both seen the video on YouTube of the old Italian guy back in the 50s playing finger tapping on an acoustic like there's no tomorrow.
Saw that.
And we would have never, had not been for social media and YouTube and all this, would have never known that old man existed.
No.
Right. Exactly.
Good point, Frank. Good point.
Makes you wonder, I know Eddie feels that he invented hand tapping, but it makes you wonder if his dad or somebody else along the way didn't teach him all that kind of stuff and give him the basics on what to do.
As I recall, Eddie and Alex were at a Zeppelin concert, and he said that I think this is true, that he just saw Jimmy Page doing just a left-handed finger tap to sustain a bit of music, and he said he saw that, and then he just added his right hand to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like I said, finger tapping could have been gone in the 30s. We don't know that, but I still remember, guys, that first album from Van Halen is, in my mind, I couldn't believe the sound, and I knew it was a guitar,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't figure out how he was getting that out of it. I could not figure it out at the time. Still can't, even though I see it.
Well, when I was listening to it, I was sitting there doing this. This is overdubbed. He's doing two
three
parts.
guitars. Yeah,
He's doing two parts.
Now, if you go back and listen to that album, one of my favorite songs on there is "Feel Your Love Tonight," and
great.
That tune has some overdubs on. There's very, very little overdubbing on that album, but
yeah, it sounds pretty clean.
There's a few where he had to put some rhythm behind some solos and whatnot. A couple songs on, but for the most part, that's just raw music, fellas. That's some good stuff.
It is.
Yeah, it is. It was fantastic.
Very good. First time seeing them live, I think it was probably their second tour. With Greg Loubet was in the second row at the Forum.
Oh yeah, Greg Loubet. He loved him.
Yeah, he idolized Eddie.
He was a nut. Yeah.
Yeah, and
God bless him.
He would go to it was called Frontline Center down in Covina, and he'd put a down payment on tickets that weren't even on sale yet, a year in advance.
Right.
So we get some good seats, and we did that for 2 or 3, maybe 4 years, different shows and everything. But to see them live like that, of course, we haven't even brought up David Lee Roth and what he is.
The man.
He is the
Diamond
man.
Dave.
Say what you will about his singing ability, he is a showman.
Absolutely.
He brought the party, and
yes, he did.
That was some good times back then.
You know what's interesting? You bring up David Lee Roth. I was listening to the album again today on the way home, just because I knew we were going to be discussing it. And for the life of me, I have no idea what he's singing on half the album. No idea what the lyrics are.
Tell you, I've got a CD from Michael Shankner and a guy named Ziggy Schwartz, and it's a live album where they do nothing but covers. They do UFO, they do Scorpions, everybody. And one of the songs they do is Ice Cream Man. And we're talking about Ziggy Schwartz, who's a German who doesn't speak English in the first place, and he's trying to mimic David Lee Roth. And I'll get it for you guys to give it a listen because it is hilarious with all the shimmy boo bops and everything else. And you just don't realize, just how much he improvised. When Dave sang, you don't know. You don't know what it was he was singing about. But it was good times.
Yes, it was.
Now, I don't want to put you on the spot, Jerry, but I'm going to let you pick the classic album we're going to bring to the table at the next podcast.
Oh, Lord. Well, right off the bat, I want to go UFO, Strangers in the Night.
All right. Well, I'm writing it down.
I got that for Christmas when I was 16, I think, and on LP.
That's a good one. That's a lot of good tunes on that.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I could listen to that from beginning to end.
Yep. Okay, well, that'll be the classic album for everybody out
Beautiful.
there that we're going to, if you want to give it a listen before we talk about it next time.
I will.
Good deal. All right. Well, Jim, you got anything you want to say to wrap this thing up?
Just enjoyed being here, talking with music with you guys, like always.
Same here.
Excited to get into UFO next time around. One of my favorite albums, certainly one of my favorite live albums. And
Same here.
I saw UFO 1980, No Place to Run tour, and
Wow.
being a bass player, seeing Pete Wade changed my life. So.
Very good. Well, we'll make sure we have plenty to talk about with that album, because that is a double album, and lots of great songs on that thing.
Indeed.
And like I said, we'll get into a flow if you guys feel we rushed it a little too much this time, or
No, we gotta pop the cherry eventually. So I'll be more prepared next week. But I had a gas. There's some good music going on.
Absolutely. Hey, everybody, get out there and check out Pump 5, Shire, and future kings of where?
Denmark.
Denmark. That's right. Check them out.
Being half Danish, come on, Frank.
You
I'm
should-
half Danish over here.
You should know that. Absolutely. Good stuff. All right, fellas. Well, this is the JFJ Conspiracy. We're going to wrap it up this go round because we're right at the half-hour mark, and I think we've said all we can say.
Thank you very much, Jim. Thank you very much, Jerry. Or I'm Jerry. Thank you to Frank, and everybody keep rocking out there.